What makes me a credible messenger? In other words, what experiences and background qualify me, Allison, to speak about this with any kind of credibility? As I was creating the original version of this PowerPoint, I wondered how much of my medical history might still be in my patient portal. So I looked. A lot was missing, but I found this. I was in the ER for anxiety and was experiencing suicidal thoughts, April 4th, 2016. I was in the ER again for anxiety, insomnia, and sleep deprivation too, actually, 12 days later. This was 2 days after a visit to a walk-in clinic when the doctor there sent me to the ER. This is the day someone finally figured out PTSD was part of my story. There was a long list of other things wrong, but I won't go into details here. I went from being traumatized by mystery illness and PTSD to discovering the built-in ability of our brains to be rewired, to learning how to walk with my Savior in co-creating my story of miraculous healing. Not only am I just fine now, the PTSD is essentially gone, but I'm better in my heart, mind, body, and spirit than I ever was before. Not only that, I had many other medical conditions I haven't mentioned, dozens, but which are also gone. There are a couple of videos that tell more details about that, and links will be provided in the descriptions below. In the darkest days of my nightmare, when I didn't think I could do it anymore, I told the Lord that if He would help me somehow get through the hell I was experiencing, I would someday use that experience to find a way to alleviate or prevent suffering like mine. It was a very personal covenant I made with the Lord. He kept His end of the deal, and I've been trying hard to keep mine. I found an article that helped me feel validated in all of that, the lead-in for which gave me a powerfully concise mission statement about what I hope will be happening with this video. It is normal to feel anxious, but anxiety disorders can interfere with a person's life. The better we understand these disorders, the better we can help each other. I really appreciate these resources on the church's website. And I'm here to tell you that there just might be a whole lot more going on in your body related to your health that could be connected to elevated anxiety or emotions connected to past traumas than you might have guessed. The following video provides an overview of the science of nervous system dysregulation more beautifully than I could ever hope to accomplish on my own. It was created by the Trauma Foundation and is entitled Trauma and the Nervous System, a Polyvagal Perspective. And again, a link will be provided.
Over half of us have a chronic disorder such as high blood pressure or autoimmune disease. Rates of anxiety, depression, PTSD, and addiction are skyrocketing. Why? The roots of these issues and more can often be traced to trauma, adverse childhood experiences, chronic stress, and ultimately, nervous system dysregulation. Meet your autonomic nervous system. Let's call it ANS. ANS takes care of a lot of your automatic functions, like your heartbeat, digestion, and body temperature. ANS also manages your survival and stress response, working to keep you alive when your life is in danger. ANS functions as our built-in detection system, constantly scanning our environment for cues of safety and cues of danger. As ANS scans the environment, it has 3 general responses or states. Safe. You feel calm, relaxed, and connected to those around you. Mobilized. When ANS detects danger, it sends a command and your heart rate and breathing increase, adrenaline and cortisol are released, and blood rushes to your muscles so you can handle the threat. This is our fight-flight response. Immobilized. When ANS detects that the danger is so great that you can't fight or run, it shuts you down. In this state, our heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature decrease, and pain-numbing endorphins are released. ANS does all of this automatically without us thinking about it. ANS doesn't just use these states for survival, it uses them to navigate through the world each day. When ANS functions well, It moves fluidly from one state to another, 1 minute mobilized and ready for action, and the next resting and recovering. ANDS will often blend states together. When we play, ANDS combines the mobilized and safe states. And when we are intimate with loved ones, it combines immobilized and safe states. When ANDS can stay flexible and fluid like this, it helps us manage and become resilient to stress and negative events. We're able to bounce back and move on. Unfortunately, when we experience trauma and chronic stress, it can keep ANDS from functioning in a healthy, regulated, and resilient way, and can keep us stuck in states of survival. A friendly get-together can become frightening. A simple meeting at work can become threatening. For those with a history of trauma and chronic stress, the ANDS detection system often becomes faulty, constantly signaling danger even when we are safe. It's like ANDS is an alarm system, constantly signaling fire even when there's no smoke and no flames. Consistently living in these survival states can be debilitating, and we often develop adaptive strategies like using drugs, alcohol, food, work, or sex in an attempt to bring regulation and temporary relief. Understanding how trauma impacts us is critically important. There is a whole spectrum of experiences that can be traumatizing and adversely impact ANDS, like accidents, assaults, and natural disasters, which are often called shock traumas. There is also developmental or relational trauma, when we experience chronic adversity, abuse, neglect, and lack of safety while growing up. Many other experiences can be traumatizing, including chronic stress, medical procedures, and adverse community environments like poverty, discrimination, and violence. Additionally, new research in epigenetics shows us that trauma can get passed down genetically at least 3 generations. In the past, we've thought about trauma as events that happen to us. We now know that trauma is an experience, not an event. It's what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. It's our response to the event rather than the event itself. Over 20 years ago, Kaiser and the CDC launched a groundbreaking study of over 17,000 patients that showed a direct link between adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and long-term health and wellness. In the study, 2/3 of participants reported at least one ACE. Over 20% reported 3 or more. When participants reported 4 or more ACEs, this corresponded to an increased chance for heart disease, cancer, drug abuse, and more. With 6 or more ACEs, life expectancy decreases by almost 20 years. We are learning that many physical and emotional symptoms may emerge from a chronically dysregulated ANDS. When ANDS gets stuck in survival states, our biology shifts its focus from the tasks that keep us healthy, happy, and thriving to surviving the immediate perceived threat. Many conditions and symptoms that are chronic and difficult to diagnose and treat can be attributed to a dysfunctional ANDS. Our childhood experiences can also keep us from connecting with others. This is vitally important because as children, our #1 survival priority is to attach to caregivers. When the people responsible for our safety aren't safe, and we are living in chronic states of unsafety, ANDS doesn't get wired right. The part of ANDS that judges what is safe and what is not becomes faulty. If intimacy and connection were unsafe as a child, as adults we'll often unconsciously reject attempts from friends and partners to connect. Even though intimacy and connection is what we want, ANDS feels it's unsafe and won't allow it. Trauma compromises our ability to engage with others, replacing the need for connection with the need for protection. When there has been trauma, ANDS can no longer differentiate between our unsafe past and our now safe present. ANDS can't turn off the need to protect, even though we are now safe. So what can we do when ANDS becomes dysregulated? How do we recover from trauma and develop a healthy, regulated, resilient nervous system? Fortunately, we can retrain ANDS to feel safe again. This is best done with the help of others. Each one of us has an ANDS, and our ANDS is constantly communicating with and attuning to the states of others. We autonomically mirror the states of those around us. This is called co-regulating. We see it in herd behavior. If one animal senses danger, the entire group becomes more alert, increasing their chances of survival. We're exactly the same. When we're with others who are stressed, angry, or depressed, it makes us feel worse. When we're with others who are calm and happy, it makes us feel better. Connecting with others who are safe, attuned, and present is the best way to restore a healthy ANS. For those struggling to recover from the impacts of trauma, there is an emerging field of innovative clinical therapies that have been developed to reestablish safety and regulation to ANS. We're also learning that many of the activities we intuitively know make us feel better, like spending time in nature, practicing yoga, dancing, helping others, and more, can help ANS become more regulated and resilient. Healing from trauma and finding release from being stuck living in survival states comes as ANS becomes regulated, increases its capacity for resilience, and regains its flexibility. It's not about being calm all the time or mobilized all the time. It's about having a flexible and resilient nervous system that can accurately assess safety and danger and responds appropriately. We're truly resilient when we can fluidly move from one state to another. For those living with the impacts of trauma and chronic stress, becoming unstuck is like beginning a new life. For the rest of us, understanding how our nervous system states guide our behavior can help us become happier, healthier, and more empathetic human beings. Collectively, we have an epidemic of social issues that are rooted in trauma. If we can do the work to heal past traumas and build healthy, regulated nervous systems as individuals, families, and communities, we can end the cycles that continue to reinforce our greatest challenges and create a safer, vibrant, and more connected world.
If that was a lot to wrap your head around, here is something of my own creation as an additional summary of what you just heard. First, the brain is pushed into a state of hypervigilance by chronic stress and/or illness and/or trauma and/or injury. Then the brain decides you're not doing a good job of staying safe, so it amps up its efforts to protect you from perceived danger. It does so by creating symptoms, sensations, thoughts, and emotions it believes will prevent you from doing anything it sees as even remotely risky. Over time, your brain gets stuck in a rut, a neural pathway that gets hardwired into your brain and becomes a repeating loop.